My name is David McKell and my pronouns are he, they, and I have two problems, and I'm wearing both of them. So this shirt is actually a mock-up for a shirt that I patterned probably 3 months ago, and as you can see, it's a little tight in the arm's eye. I've already fixed this on the pattern. All I have to do is literally make the shirt. The other problem that I have is this skirt, which is the lovely pleated mini skirt. As you can see, I made it for a jacket pattern that it was the first tailoring project I ever did, and it's wonderful and lovely. Problem is, as you can see, there's not enough pleating in the back, and I think it's ugly. It's also too short in the back. The hem is shorter in the back than it is in the front. So, I would like to fix these problems this week, and I would like to take you on the journey with me. So, I started by trying to figure out the skirt. I started with a strip of fabric twice the length of my waist, and I pleated it with 1-inch pleats. This ended up not being enough, so I had to cut some more and then re-pleat them. I pinned it onto myself so I could mark where I wanted the side seams to go. Hello. So what I've been doing is, after I finished pleating everything, I cut them apart. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut versions of this that are actually long enough to be a full skirt out of more muslin. So yeah, this is moving along fairly quickly. I should have a finished pattern by the end of the day, if not having already cut it out, which will be great. You remember when I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I can have this done today? Well, it's fully the evening of the next day, and I'm only just now getting close to being done with it, so I've got everything pinned. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch down those pleats. Then I pinned it on myself again to make sure that the center back was in the correct place. And made sure it was good for dancing in. I then pinned the hem and adjusted it on myself simply by adjusting the placements of the pins. So now I've got a whole skirt that fits me perfectly and is hemmed exactly the way that it needs to be hemmed. And now I get to take it apart again. So I have the entire thing re-flattened. I have essentially undone all of the work that I started with, but now I can trace this onto paper and make a pattern. So I don't have like a whole big speech about fashion history this week. I've recently been reading up on the Lavender Scare, the persecution of queer people in the United States government during and after World War II. There's a story of a general who was talking to his secretary, and the general told the secretary, I want a full report of every lady that's in the secretarial pool. I want to know if any of them have ever been accused of lesbianism, thought of being accused of lesbianism. I want to know, I want to weed out all of the lesbians. And his secretary turns to him and goes, yes, sir, I'd be happy to do that for you, but I want you to know, if we do that, if we fire all of the lesbians, you're losing half of your secretarial pool, myself included. I don't think that report ever got made. I've got the pattern for the mini skirt. I've got the pattern that I made, like weeks ago. A long time ago for the shirt that I'm gonna make. But this is all foldy because I moved in between. So we're gonna iron this. Okay, so It's 2 days later, but I do have both of these projects cut out. It went interestingly. The shirt came out exactly how it was supposed to, no problems, no issues. The skirt, I had to add a couple of extra seams. I had to piece it because I didn't have enough width of fabric to get all of the pieces out without there being seams. I have 2 pockets, 4 pocket facings, a waistband interfacing made out of tarlatan. I've got, this is one back, and then this is like back A and back B. And then this is 2 front pieces. I started by stitching up the seams I ended up having to add for the piecing before I started setting in the pockets. Okay, we're doing this rapid fire because I want to make this video shorter than 10 minutes. So to start off with, we're laying the pocket material on the wrong side of the fashion fabric, and then one of the facings on the right side of the fashion fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch starting on the outside, right here, a 1/2 inch down from the top of the facing, a 1/2 inch inside the facing to this corner, and then all the way down, and then all the way back out. Go. Then I trimmed the seam allowance under the section I just stitched. Here you can see me understitching the pocket facing to the seam allowance I just trimmed. Then the facing piece gets turned under, pressed, and then top stitched. So you can see I've just top stitched this right here. So now what I need to do is finish all of these edges. So I'm just going to fold those under and sew along all of that, not catching the fashion fabric. This is just going through the pocketing. Okay, so you can see that I've top stitched around here, and that is that piece of facing finished. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another piece of facing and I'm going to set it all the way out here on the other side on top of the facing, and then I'm going to fold the rest of the pocketing over top of that, and then I'm going to take some pins, stick it in there. So that's where the other side of the facing needs to be stitched down. So this is finished, and then the next step is the thing that always kind of messes me up. So you can see that this now is the entire pocket. We want to stitch this edge as a French seam, but we want the seam allowance to end up on the outside. So what I have to do is turn it the other way, stitch it, and then turn it back and stitch it again. This is the thing that I almost always fuck up, and one of them I end up with the seam allowance on the wrong side. Let me see if I can do this the right way this time. So you can see this is now a completed pocket. This is what it looks like from the inside of the skirt. This is what it's going to look like from the outside of the skirt, and then you can see that this will peel back to reveal the pocket. So I stitched just the top 2 inches before the pocket actually starts. Now I'm going to stitch the seam allowance of the back piece just to this pocket facing, which will then close the pocket, and then I'll stitch the rest of it. This is what it will look like on the outside of the skirt, so it's like really hardly noticeable, but then it's... So yeah, don't let people tell you that you're not allowed to put nice big pockets in things, because you can have nice shit if you make it yourself. Why, hello. Have you seen my lovely dragon boy? This is my D&D character. His name is Maddie. And then this, wait, there he is. There he is. That's him and his boyfriend, Pollux. And then that's the full color rendering of him. My best friend Jules made those. They're gorgeous. Anyway, so they're all pleated in, so I need to get them stitched down. But first I need to mark a line 2 inches below the top edge, which is how far down I'm going to stitch the pleats. Here I'm pinning down the waistband 1 inch below the top edge of the skirt. Note that I've already stitched the tarlatan interfacing to the waistband. After stitching that down, I trimmed away the excess seam allowance. Then I turned the waistband over and whipped it to the inside, making sure to catch the pocket bags in the process. I just found this footage of me pulling out all of the basing stitches very satisfying. So, the fun thing about hems is, no one is ever going to see them. Which is great for me, because in the I had to piece this, I didn't have enough fabric shuffle, confusion, shenaniganery, something happened. This one is a full inch lower than this one, but that's where I need to turn this for the whole thing to be even. So what I've done is I've just added some bias tape so I can turn that as close to this edge as I can. It's still going to be a little bit shorter than the rest of the skirt, but quite frankly, with this much fabric, no one's going to notice. Just cross-stitched the hem down, and that's it. Yeah. Not putting a shirt on because I don't wanna. So, I got the skirt done yesterday, and today I need to make this shirt. Now the question is not, can I make this shirt in 8 hours? The question is, can I make this shirt and film it in 8 hours? So, let's get started. The first thing I did was to mark where the finished collar is going to sit on all of my pieces. Then I thread marked along there to make my life easier later. You'll see what I'm talking about. Then I stitched the shoulder seams on both the collar and the shirt, and I felled those seams to finish them off. Okay, so I've got shoulder seams stitched and felled on both the collar and the shirt proper. So now what I have to do is I have to attach the collar and the shirt. This is where it gets kind of weird, because to do this I have to pin right side to wrong side so that when this flips out, the right side is showing. Okay, so the collar is attached to the inside edge, which is feat of engineering. So this is the collar. It's kind of hard to see, I know. So this is the collar. So it finishes the neck edge from here all the way until the fold point, which is like there. And then from that edge all the way to this corner and then down to the bottom has to be finished with bias tape, which is a really interesting and confusing configuration of figuring out what needs to go on top of where to get all of those edges finished. So I'm going to pin the outside edge of the collar to that line that we basted earlier and then top stitch that down. Okay, so the collar is finished. It's on. I've got it ironed into place. And I also went through and just put some tacking stitches in a couple of different places to make sure that it would lie, it's gonna keep lying flat. Here you can see me pinning bias tape along the arm's eye to finish that edge. So I got a lot of this done. The arm's eyes are completely finished. The neck edge is completely finished, as you saw. So the only thing I have left to do is... So this is the placket, so I just need to stitch this on there and fold that over to finish that off, and then I'll stitch up this side seam. Once the side seams were stitched and finished, the only thing left to do was to place the buttons and make some buttonholes. So we want 6 buttons. These are the buttons that I have. I went to the garment district yesterday to grab them and just kind of put them in places. And these are the places that I have decided to put them.
be the leaf. You are the bushes.
I am Homer Simpson.